the depth of the pain, the loneliness, and the hopelessness that goes through your body. How hard was it? Think about each and every day of your life. It's wrongful and painful, and unborn tomorrow promise you to be worse. That's death row. I used to hear men scream all through the night. Some committed suicide. Because they committed suicide didn't mean that they didn't want to live. They were just tired of suffering because there wasn't no hope in their future. And after being there 2 days later, this is what I want to bring to you all. When I was going through my 2 trials, there were some young high school students. Some days they wouldn't go to school. They didn't go to school because they wanted to learn about the criminal justice system. And they had heard about my trial, and I was fighting for my life. So some days they used to attend my trial. Then they became friends with me. And when I went off to death row, when they started with me, they were 16 years old. And when I went to death row, they was 18. And when I got up to death row, got up on death row, those 2 young kids sitting around, 2 little white kids that I'd never met. They came up to death row and said, "Shujaa, we're going to get you out of here." I said, "Oh shit, my life is finished now." I said, "What can some young children do against the power of the state of California?" Little did I know, those young children left me and went out. Sold cookies, sold coffee, went into the church, went to universities, and anyone would listen, they would tell my story. And that's why I like to say, I'm here not because of the system. I'm here because young individuals like yourself went out and began to organize. And they formed a movement that helped set me free. And then, after being on death row for 3 years, they gave us a little television. And I seen a picture. And I seen my little black face on there. My first thing was, oh my God, what in the hell have I done now? But it was the Supreme Court of the United States of America, the California Supreme Court, said we overturned this conviction because they systematically excluded all African Americans off the jury. African Americans as fathers and mothers were police, judges, but because of their color, they didn't want them to be on my jury. And I clearly understand why they didn't want them on my jury. Because all the racist whites that came in and testified against me, some said all blacks look alike. But they can come in and say, yeah, that was Mr. Brown. And you would think, because of the state of California overturned our conviction, because of that, you would think that we'll get a jury of our peers. My 3rd trial was Lily White. And there, in my 4th trial, I was 29 years old. And we chose a jury, and we was having jury selection. And I remember going through each and every one. Thank you, and kick this jury off. And there was one particular person on that jury, a white man. He was vice president or president of some bank. And we had one more challenge left. And Mr. Larson said, "Shujaa, get this man off the jury. He's going to convict you." I said to him, I said, "Mr. Larson, let me handle this." I said, "I can't offer you a deep philosophical explanation of why I want him on the jury. But I think he's a fair and decent man." And we left him on the jury. And he was the one that led the campaign for my release. And I can remember waking up in that 4th trial. I said to myself, how can I, if the jury convict me, how can I go back and start all over again? I couldn't conceive for the life of me. I woke up that morning, I was like a little boy. All I wanted to do was go home and see my mother and father, my sisters and brothers who was in diapers when I left. Now they was married and had their own children. But I was fortunate. I walked in that courtroom after 11 long years, and I stood up and said, "Will the jury find Mr. Graham not guilty?" And I said back then, I put my hands over my face. I said, after 11 long years, my greatest nightmare has finally come to an end. I've been out over 20-some years. And each and every day that I wake up, and see my little grandkids, I see my son, I say, what if the state of California would have had their way? I wouldn't be here today. Each and everything that makes me happy also makes me sad. I can look at you all and say, what if California would have had their way? I wouldn't be able to see the beautiful state of New Hampshire, like King was said, New Hampshire. So I'm so happy to be here. But it's not just about capital punishment. It's about human rights and social justice. It's about economic justice and inequality that continue to exist. Yes, we've had a long way. We've accomplished many things. But we still have a long ways to go. And with each and every one of you all continue to organize yourself and stand up for justice, you're going to make America a better place. And I'm sure in my mind, in the not too distant future, the state of New Hampshire will no longer have the death penalty. And when the state of New Hampshire eliminates the death penalty, she will become a better state. And when New Hampshire becomes a better state, America will become a finer land. I don't know what most of you young people are going to school for. Some of you going to go up and be doctors, some going to be lawyers, and some going to be teachers. But I want to ask you tonight, add one more thing to your vocation. Find the issue for social justice and human rights and make it a part of your vocation. And when you do this, you're going to become better doctors, better lawyers, and better teachers. And when you become that, all the people will have a better situation and a better space in this world. I can remember what King once said. Some of you said is they're getting tired and they want to pass the torch on. I may be 63 years old, but I'm not giving up my torch. Dr. King, no, you don't have to take mine. Dr. King, he said, if you can't run, he said, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. And I want to tell you, if I can't run, if I can't walk, I can't crawl, just have me in a wheelchair and push me on to the finish line. Somewhere I read, the struggle, the race, is not necessarily given to the swift or the strong, but to those who endure until the end. And this is what I want you all to do. Endure until the end. New Hampshire can be safe without the death penalty. We don't need the death penalty to correct a wrong. Many states doesn't have the death penalty, and it's less violence. New Hampshire had the death penalty and haven't executed anyone in how many years, but yet they want to expand it. We can protect New Hampshire by correcting. I want to take the word punishment out of my vocabulary. You violate our society, my first instinct is how can I correct you and protect society at the same time. Capital punishment served no purpose. Tookie Williams, the young crip that was murdered at San Quentin, he made the statement, what's the difference between a murderer and a state that murders? And the predetermined outcome is orchestrated death. When someone robbed, do we enact robbery against the robber as a form of punishment? Of course not. When someone raped, do we rape the rapist to prove that raping is wrong? Of course not. But why would someone kill? And we say life is so sacred, we are willing to kill to show that killing is wrong. My friends, there's a better way. In New Hampshire, I hope you find that better way. I know it's been a long evening, but I want you all to help us, help ourselves. And together, we can make the world a better place. And if by some unfortunate circumstances, I know y'all see me struggling up here, but if by some unfortunate circumstances, you feeling sorry for me, don't. What happened to me is over with and done. When I initially got out, I wanted revenge and retaliation. But to continue to read Dr. King, and I read a chapter in there, he said, if you want to fully love again, you must fully forgive. He said, you must love everyone. I said, oh, I messed up now. I can't love all these people that wrong me. Then I looked on the other side. He said, but you don't have to like anyone. I said, so my friends, I would like to leave you with the words of a condemned man and my friend Rennie here, my co-defendant. We went to jail together in Carolina protesting capital punishment. And I got out of jail the next morning, and after they executed, it was a 1,000 execution. And I got out of jail the next morning, everybody went on to their home. But they had another execution in South Carolina. I jumped in the car and went on to South Carolina and protest that execution. But as we fought for this individual that I never knew, all I knew he was a human being. And as we went off to South Carolina, I got in the car with his lawyer. He said, Shujaa, we've got the word. They're going on with the execution. And he said, here's the final words of my client. I don't know all exactly what he said, but I do remember the parts that touched my heart. And I want to leave it with the peoples of New Hampshire. Somewhere I read, the most happiest of peoples don't necessarily have the best of things. They just make the best out of what comes their way. Happiness comes to those who struggle, those who fight, and surely to those who have searched. We can't go on well in life until we overcome our past failures, heartaches, and disappointments. The most brightest of futures will always be based on a forgiven or forgotten past. My beloved friends, when most of you all were born, everyone around you was probably smiling and you were crying. Go on out and live your life so that when you die, you'll be the one that is smiling and everyone around you will be crying. God bless you.